Now, I'm not saying that I am anything more than a professional when it comes to these things, but if there ever was a one-hit wonder that was needed to be made in my little world here, yes, in my corner of the internet, it's probably going to be today, because yes, we're talking that selfie post stress once again. Why do I do that? Well, because as of this moment, it's 21:45. Yeah, we're almost talking 10 o'clock in the evening, and sure enough, I can be doing a quick video, yeah? There's not that big of a problem with that, even though when I start talking, I don't really stop talking until I actually need to, yeah. But usually it's not that big of a problem for me to see that, well, I actually have a bit of a constraint here to really work with. So why not work with that constraint? Yeah, it's going to be the best thing ever. Going to be the best thing ever as well. But yeah, today kind of needs to happen because there are rendering times and stuff like that I actually need to keep into consideration as well. So if I don't go for like 20 odd minutes today, then that probably is why. Anyway, as I said, there's nothing more to this channel than structure, good behavior, and professionality, if that is even a word. So let's give ourselves a look, or rather, let's have myself have a look at what I'm going to be talking about today. And we're obviously talking about the Monk debate about political correctness. Yes, we're still going on about that. Why? Well, because there were so many things to nitpick about, and I say nitpick. There's so many points of discussion that was kind of raised but never fully discussed in the debate. And sure, we were talking political correctness to a certain extent, even though some of them were speaking more about branches to political correctness more than political correctness overall. Wow, I had a hair in my mouth, and as you can see, it probably wasn't mine because it was longer than like 3 millimeters. 3 millimeters. Anyway. Wow, the best thing ever, right? What am I saying? You know, I'm not saying that I'm stressed. It's just the way it goes about. Anyway, on one side we had Stephen Fry and Jordan B. Peterson, kind of on the individualistic approach, whilst on the other side we had Michael Dyson and Michelle Goldberg discussing for that political correctness is the same as a progress, which some people can stand behind and others cannot, which is kind of, well, the entire point of the discussion and the debate, really. However, what we're going to be talking about today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be focusing on the timestamp, and I will be leaving the description in the description to the video below so that you can go and check it out yourself, which I highly recommend. It's about 2 hours. It's good fun. Yeah, it's good fun. We're going to focus our attention to 00:59:30. So that is 59 minutes and 30 seconds. That's the timestamp that we're working with from that debate. Yeah, when, let's see if I can find it again. Stephen Fry said, why talk about politics and not political correctness? Right, not succeeding the shortcomings of the left. Yeah, it's amazing, yeah? And just that was obviously very abstractly presented, but it kind of takes up a really interesting view when it comes about how are we actually discussing our opponents wherever we are. One can say that it was a bit like tossing shade, and one can say that it was self-critique. Sure, whatever you want to do. However, to kind of clarify the statement, it was more along the lines of saying that Stephen Fry said, well, I'm a bit on the left. Yeah, I'm a bit of a left when it comes to politics. Not that I'm taking his particular stake on politics, but just, you know, to live the character. So Stephen Fry, back in character, yeah, was saying that I'm a bit on the left. Yeah, I'm a bit on the left when it comes to politics. And I see the rise of the right extremism in Eastern Europe and in other places on the earth. And Jordan B. Peterson kind of supported the statement that yes, there is a race in the right wing, so to say, of politics. And and this was kind of the way I thought sounded so amazing until I actually thought about it for a while, yeah, and came up with some problems with the statement. But Stephen Fry was basically saying, I'm not saying that the right wing is right. Haha, pun intended, yeah. No, actually not. I'm not saying that the right wing is right in what they're doing. I'm just saying that the left is not doing it good enough to kind of compete. And he was trying to spin the entire, that entire statement towards the fact that, well, political correctness is associated with the left and how that is misused in order to hinder progress for actually combating the, the extremacy of the right in situations like this, when people are feeling that they're oppressed because they can't talk about whatever they want to, feel like the state is actually policing them in their thoughts and free will and freedom of speech, which people do not like. And that just tends to go hand in hand with a lot of parties that are working with, agendas that are more about misery politics, I would like to say. We have something in Sweden called Missnöjespartiet, which basically means that in times of misery in a country, people tend to vote for a company, tend to vote for a political party that's a bit more radical, so that changes will happen no matter what they actually is, because they don't believe that it is good enough as it is right now and they need a change. And whereas most political parties say that, well, that's not us, right? One specific and certain party will probably take up the mantle and say that we will make all the changes that you ask for, no matter how irrational they are, and we will just go forward with it, right? And it's kind of the extremism of both the right and the left, I would argue, coming up. However, so that was kind of how it was tried to be catered. But what I can take away from this this statement alone, yeah, which I thought was kind of interesting, is that it's an interesting way of viewing your opponent. Really, no matter where you are, if you're in politics, if you're in a company, if you're in a group of friends where you think that you're not as funny as the other person, or another person, right? Or if you're in kind of a love triangle, and not actually, well, you know what I mean. Where you know, everybody love each other, I guess. Well, that didn't make it any better. Where everybody loves someone, but no one loves the one that they're supposed to love back. Supposed to love. Well, I'm just digging the hole deeper, right? We're talking about political correctness here, and I'm just, digging away. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that this entire statement can be related to various different circumstances and very many different scenarios, right? There are many different scenarios. And it's the idea of, instead of saying that what the opponents are doing in any particular situation is right and good, you're instead saying that, no, they're not doing it that good because I don't believe that they're doing something good. So that means that even if they're presenting something that they stand for really well, I'm not going to agree with it because, well, I simply do not agree with them to begin with, right? So that's probably an assumption that needs to be made and upheld in order for this to actually work. However, what I'm going to say is that you're not doing a good job. It's us who are doing a bad job, and that's why people tend to crowd towards your side of the argument instead of ours, right? Or instead of mine. So it's kind of a self-critique in saying that, well, we are the ones that need to improve in order to make ourselves more attractive and better, to actually attract the other side to our side, which is a healthy mentality in a way. And up until, well, today actually, when I kind of voiced the opinion of what I was going to talk about today with some of my mates, I thought that was amazing, such a unique way of looking at your opponent, not tossing any shade to them yet, not saying that they're bad because they do this, this, and this, just say that I just do not believe in what they do. That's the reason why we're opponents to begin with. That is also why I don't say that what they're presenting and how they're presenting is good. It's just that we're doing a worse job. And that's kind of the idea that, well, that's kicking us up in gear so that we can actually do something good about it as well. Which is, yet again, productive. Coming back to this pragmatic view of shouldn't we just try and fix it and work with it. And yes, I understand that I might be digging a bit too deep into one sentence. Yeah, I totally understand that. And I'm with you. I think it's a bit ludicrous to go that deep. It's just that I've been thinking about it for a while, yeah, and these are kind of points of discussion that was raised. However, as I said, I thought this was a brilliant quote up until, well, yeah, today, when I was kind of discussing it, and someone told me, like, but isn't that at the same time the same thing as never really acknowledging any form of common ground between you and your opponent? And I was like, oh yeah, I kind of made a video about that about politics, political correctness, where I said that, yeah. Hard to argue with yourself. Not that they were directly quoting me back to me, yeah, but I was kind of feeling that way, that was kind of the opinion that I raised, yeah, that was kind of the point of view that I was trying to raise. And here I am saying that this statement was so good. But that statement in itself, technically, yeah, also says that we have the assumption that I don't agree with the other side, which is why we take on this self-critique and make ourselves better instead of saying that they are good. But yeah, yet again, that's kind of creating this idea that, well, if they're always our opponent, then we just have to assume that will always hold and be constant over time. That also means that the common ground is hard to find in order to actually debate out these problems in a safe manner that will actually prove or provide sufficient results, right? Maybe a new way of thinking about politics. Maybe there isn't just a left and a right, or left and right, left and right, however you want to see it. Maybe there isn't just a left and right. Maybe there is some in between. Maybe there is a top and a bottom. How do we actually discuss these things? Is it a sphere? Is it a line? Is it a coordination system? How do we actually look at politics? And the way that we do look at politics will be very hard to actually develop and attain a higher level of understanding in if we have this assumption hold, which is that there are opponents and we are theirs. That is why no matter how good they will become, we won't say that they're good at what they're doing. We're just going to say that we are worse and we should become better. I understand, right? That after raising these 2 points, if you're still with me, yeah, that is, which I hope you are, it kind of says that, well, both points of view are valid, right? There's a validity in saying, well, we should be more self-critique, like we should apply this sort of critique towards ourselves and become better, instead of saying, instead of trying to trash talk the opponents and maintain our level of commitment and quality, instead we should try and emphasize it and make it better. That's one way of looking at it, as we were discussing in the beginning. The second way of looking at it is that, well, if this entire argument is to hold, we kind of need to still assume that there are opponents in this matter, which doesn't really lead to any real conclusions and any real answers in what we're actually discussing. That just creates a we and a them kind of mentality, which obviously, isn't the best thing in the world to have. Now, is it? Because as I discussed yesterday or 2 days ago, something like that, politics where people are just standing and arguing against, about that I like blue. No, I like blue. And then you're saying that those two things that one thing is two different things is really weird. And that's probably the main outcome that will come out if you try to uphold such a statement in politics. Now, obviously, Stephen Fry probably didn't think much more about it than in the context that we're in. And that is also how you should be able to, or how you should handle this quote you should be handling this quote in the context of what they were actually debating at the time, and not trying to apply it out of context, because this is kind of what tends to happen. But yeah, I just thought that it was a kind of an interesting point of discussion, and that it raised so many points of view from my side that I thought was kind of interesting, that I haven't thought about before. And kind of the hypocrisy in my own statements, right? That I'm saying that this is really bad when politicians do that, and then when Stephen Fry raises this perspective, I'm like, that's so new and fresh. When technically, when you break it down over time and you realize that, wait, if that is to be true, that also means that the politicians are actually kind of valid in discussing that they like blue more than the other person like blue because they don't like the same blue as you do, but you both like blue. You see kind of the irritation here? Well, blue shirt. Could have used a blue shirt as a example here. Oh, missed opportunity. Anyway, just thought, as I said, it was kind of interesting. But tomorrow we will probably have a bit less of a stress level when it comes to, the clock. Yeah, in the times that it needs to be uploaded to keep up with that daily upload schedule. So, for now, I probably must shut myself up and say, have a nice one, mates, and I'll see you tomorrow. Perhaps, probably with a bit more of structure. Yeah, have a nice one, mates, bye.